I'm a preacher's son, Church of Christ. My father wasn't the radical, you're going to hell if you're not Church of Christ. But in the 4th grade, the elder did tell me that my grandfather was going to hell because he did not attend church, because he did not confess that, quote unquote, Jesus was the Son of God in a certain ceremony. And from there, I spent 10 years putting heroin in my arm, and spent 10 years going to rehabs and spending all of my parents' money and seeing hell in people's lives. And I got to a point to where when Love Wins came out, it articulated, Rob, every question that I had and affirmed it. And it gave me the courage to be able to say, I'm not the only one who's thinking this. And it led me to start my own spiritual base to rehab, in which it's a choice, okay? I'm getting out of the way, and God's going to do the work here, and we're going to expand this. Stars aren't here just for looks. They serve a purpose. We're all connected. Here's Love Wins. Read this, okay? And you just tell me what you think, because it's nothing but questions. Forget what you've heard. And I guess my question to you is I've evolved spiritually over the last 7 years. I found myself becoming what I hated about the church. I'm judging them because they won't change and open their minds, and now I'm becoming bitter, and I'm like, well, hold on a second. That's what I despise about them. So how do I raise my family in a church where my wife needs community? She needs to be surrounded by people on Wednesdays and on Sundays, where I get my meat, I get my Jesus time with people every single day. I get church with me and my best friend doing life together.
Right.
I don't have to have that structured time, but it doesn't meet her needs. But for me...
So the question's about your wife?
No, how do you raise a family when you're hearing a preacher talk, okay, universalism and this and that, you're going to hell if you don't do this, this, and this. I don't believe that.
Then why are you there?
Well, because it creates a huge conflict, because me and my wife are on two spiritual different levels.
Okay.
And I don't need to be there, but I'm not being the spiritual leader of my family if I'm not suiting up and showing up.
You're a preacher's son?
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine that.
Okay. Okay.
And by the way, if you want to mentor somebody, I'm ready to rock and roll, dude. I will pack my stuff up, get on the bus, and let's go rock and roll.
Okay, what's your name?
Brian Perkins.
Brian?
Yeah.
Brian Perkins. There's like 1,000 things in your question? Yeah. You may need, if it serves your wife well, you may for a season need to go and just bring something to read. You railing against the church isn't interesting. It's not compelling. You have work to do in the world, helping people get clean from heroin, cocaine, drugs, alcohol, etc. You have work to do, and you need to do this work. Are we dialed in on that? So here's the deal. There will be a million ways to be distracted from the work that you have to do. I have a friend who's been criticized a fair bit. And you could spend all your time it has nothing to do with the work I have to do. I want to take care of my family. I have a 3-year-old daughter. I want to spend time with my daughter, my wife, and kids, and we have these great friends, and we have these long meals with lots of wine, and we grill out, and we live near the ocean, so we all go surfing, and then we have fish tacos, and it's a beautiful life, and I love it. And then I have books I got to write, and then I got to come to Nashville, and so I got stuff I got to do. So I can spend all my time wondering and getting angry with the people who don't like what I do, but it's absolutely irrelevant. I don't Google my name. I don't go looking for blog fights because it's boring and irrelevant. I met a couple 4 days ago in their late 20s, early 30s, and they came up to me, and the wife said, I just found out that I have stage 4 cancer. And as she says this, her husband puts his arm on her, and his eyes are like clouded with tears, and she said, would you pray for us? So this is where we actually live. People who are trying to find God in the midst of stage 4 cancer with a woman in her late 20s. And I was trained as a pastor, so I was trained to try and help people find God and find resurrection from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows and everything in between, including stage 4 cancer. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I got like 4 books in my head, and I got this TV show we're working on, I got this novel, I got some other things I'd like to do. So I try to do that. So for you, you got to stay absolutely honed in on this. Kierkegaard said that a saint is the person who can will the one thing. Is the person, there's 1,000 things you could be doing. But if you have this calling to work with special needs middle school students, or if you have this calling to make landscapes really beautiful and sustainable, or whatever it is, then you have to go after that, and you have to be laser focused on that. Now, you have a family, and you're trying to sort of shepherd them along, and if that brings your wife life, then you and your wife have to work that one through. The two of you have to work that one through. And you may need to go for a season because it serves her well, and you may need to just suck it up and decide, I am not going to listen. I am somehow not going to listen, or I'm going to check, or I'm going to think about other things, or I'm just going to honor what this person's voice does in her life, but I am not going to just moan about it every Sunday afternoon at lunch. Or, you know what, honey, I'm so glad you're doing that. I am going to go fishing or build a raft, or I don't know what you do in your spare time. Just making stuff up. But like, you just say, you know, why don't you go for a season? And always speak of seasons. Because sometimes what happens is people are like, oh, is it always going to be like this? For a reason, for a season. This is what we're doing right now. This is what's working for us right now. This is what season of life we're in right now. It may last 6 weeks. It may last 6 years. It may last forever. It may last for 2 weeks. So it may involve all sorts of things. But the really interesting thing for you and your wife is to explore, what does this look like for this season? And just say to your wife, here's where I'm at, and I just can't do that for a while. I just can't. And I think if you take the first move and say, I need you to help me out here because this is where I'm at and this isn't bringing me life, you may be surprised at how she responds. But that's the really interesting, compelling thing. But whatever you do, if you become the guy who's angry with fundamentalists, it's not interesting. It's just kind of boring, actually. But you telling us about the latest person who's gotten clean from heroin, now that's interesting.